السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. اللهم لا أحصي ثناء عليك كما أثنيت على نفسك. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد، يقول الله تبارك وتعالى: إن في ذلك لذكرى لمن كان له قلب أو ألقى السمع وهو شهيد. قال الله تبارك وتعالى: فإنها لا تعمى الأبصار ولكن تعمى القلوب التي في الصدور. قال الله تبارك وتعالى: قال الله تبارك وتعالى: ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها. وعن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: الحلال بين والحرام بين وبينهما مشتبهات لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس، فمن اتقى الشبهات استبرأ لدينه وعرضه، ومن وقع في الشبهات كراع يرعى حول الحمى يوشك ان يواقع. الا وان لكل ملك حمى، الا وان حمى الله في ارضه محارم، الا وان في الجسد مضغه اذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله واذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله الا وهي القلب. وعنه صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: تعرض الفتن على القلوب كالحصير عودا عودا، فأي قلب أشربها نكتت فيه نكتة سوداء، وأي قلب أنكرها نكتت فيه نكتة بيضاء، حتى تصير على قلبين، إلى أبيض مثل الصفا لا تضره فتنة ما دامت السماوات والأرض، وإلى أسود مرمادا كالكوز مجخيا لا يعرف معروفا ولا ينكر منكرا إلا ما أشرب من هواه، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Respected brothers, elders, dear sisters, Islam is about the perfection of the human being. It's about advancement. It's about change, positive change. It's about achievement. It's about reaching the heights and the peaks of the best that the human being can possibly be. In terms of beliefs, conduct, attitude, approach, worship, and overall outlook of the world that one resides in. Our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a very concentrated, specific, and clear effort on the people that he was sent to. And the result of that effort was that those people who were seemingly and apparently spinning their wheels in the mud and going nowhere in life, going nowhere economically, politically, going nowhere spiritually, they had no recognition, they had no clear identity, and they had no achievements to speak of. These same people, all of a sudden, in a matter of a couple of decades, became the champions of the world. They became the models for mankind. They became radiyallahu anhum wa radu anhu. They became those people who achieved such spiritual heights and such grace and beauty in their personalities that from that day till today, mankind has not been able to produce an example of such perfection. People of that height, of that standard. These were people who, after being locked in a very small world, in a very limited scope of thinking, were all of a sudden thinking bigger than the world. They were all of a sudden thinking beyond the world. And their actions demonstrated that they themselves were bigger than this world. Their hearts, their minds, their goals, everything that they were doing was in fact dwarfing the world, making the world look like a very insignificant place. And the achievement of the world, a very insignificant achievement. And the treasures of the world, very insignificant treasures. How did they become like that? How do you become larger than life? How do you overpower and conquer the world that exists in your heart, so that what you desire is far more superior, far more significant, and far more powerful than anything that the world has to offer? All of that begins with changing the state of the heart. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, verily, in the body is a piece of flesh. And like my brother reminded me that I'm speaking with a bunch of very educated people, and mashallah, many good to know that they're cardiologists. But I'm going to talk about a different kind of cardiology. I'm not going to talk about issues dealing with pulmonary issues, okay, tachycardia, palpitations. We are going to look beyond anatomical and physiological structure and functionality of the heart. Because the anatomy and physiology of the heart is limited and restricted to the physical being of the human, and there are hundreds of thousands of species in the world that share these physiological functions with us. We might be unique in some aspects, but we are not unique in the sense that we have a heart. But it's not that flesh and blood, it's not that pulmonary cycle that is making us superior to these animals and birds and all these other creatures. It's another aspect of this heart. And that aspect can be compared to the quality of something. There is a substance and it has a color. There's a substance and it has a texture. You cannot separate the color from the substance. You cannot separate the texture from the substance. Yet the color is not the substance. Yet the texture is not the substance. This sounds kind of psychological and kind of philosophical. But what we are talking about are the qualities of the heart. So, the thinking, attitudes, perceptions, intentions and motives, likes and dislikes, inclinations and tendencies. This is what we're talking about. Beliefs and disbeliefs. Affirmations and denials. That's what makes us who we are. And in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that makes all the difference between a successful person and one who has failed. And as all the great thinkers of the world, whether you're talking about the ancient Roman thinkers and philosophers, the ancient Greek philosophers, talk about the ancient Chinese philosophers, philosophers and thinkers from every background, every walk of life, all unanimously agree that a person's contentment, satisfaction, and success has absolutely nothing to do with what they possess around them. Absolutely nothing to do with their external elements. It's all to do with what they have inside. Yet interestingly, every day we defy this line of thinking and continue to chase after happiness and success in the things around us, in the external things. So this piece of flesh, when it is rectified, إِذَا صَلَحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ, the body is rectified. When the beliefs are rectified, actions are rectified. When the heart's perceptions are rectified, actions are rectified. When the attitudes of a person are rectified, their actions are rectified. When the motives are rectified, actions are rectified. When perceptions are correct, then achievements are significant. When perceptions are incorrect or false, then there is no achievement to speak of. It starts with belief. Everything focuses and revolves around belief. Because belief is what differentiates a heart that is alive and a heart that is dead. The heart that has the correct belief, it has started to live. And the heart that is filled with incorrect beliefs, as far as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concerned, it is dead. The heart that has the right belief, it can see. And that heart that has the wrong belief is blind. فَإِنَّهَا لَا تَعْمَى الْأَبْصَارِ. It is not their physical eyes that are blind. They can see quite well with their eyes. وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَى الْقُلُوبُ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ. But the eyes, the perception of their heart has been blinded. They cannot see. In other words, they cannot distinguish between truth and falsehood, between right and wrong, between acceptable and unacceptable. They see signs all around them, yet they're not able to relate to those signs. They pass by them. كَأَيٍّ مِّنْ آيَةٍ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ يَمُرُّونَ عَلَيْهَا وَهُمْ عَنْهَا مُعْرِضُونَ. Day after day, they see the signs of Allah, the wonders of Allah, the greatness of Allah. They're passing by in complete ignorance of them. So to wake up the heart, to bring it to life, and then to enable it to see, and then give it clarity in what it's seeing, enable it to focus, and enable to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. The power of the heart comes from the extent of its connection with Allah. And the weakness of the heart begins from neglect of Allah and lack of remembrance of Allah and wrong beliefs about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna fi dhalika la dhikra. This Quran is filled with reminders, beautiful messages, important lessons. For who? لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ. You have to have the right heart first. If you have a heart, what Allah deems as a heart that is alive and functional, not your cardiologist. If you have a heart that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has deemed alive and functional and healthy, then every letter and word of the Quran is going to open up wisdom to you. And if the heart is dysfunctional, then it doesn't matter what your heartbeat is. This heart is spiritually dysfunctional. You can read the entire Quran from beginning to end, and you can read it over and over again, but you still will not be able to derive benefit and lessons and wisdom struggle. So the first enemy of the heart is kufr and shirk. That is what completely blinds the heart and renders it useless. To free the heart from kufr, to free the heart from shirk, is the first responsibility of the human being. And the Muslim who believes in Allah, who affirms all the attributes of Allah, who believes in all of those things that Allah has said in the Quran, what His Prophet ﷺ has conveyed in hadith, what does he need to do, or she need to do? He need to make sure that the ideas related to kufr and shirk are not entering into the heart. And while saying La ilaha illallah, our hearts are not turning to someone other than Allah. When we are in a state of dire need and necessity or problems and troubles, we're not just saying with our tongues, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. We're saying with our actions, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. And when Allah gives us things and puts us in control, we're not attributing this to our own achievements. If we are able to earn a certain amount of money, we're not attributing that earning to ourselves. إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ ذُو الْقُوَّةِ الْمَتِينُ. This is all coming from Allah. If we are able to take care of our families, we don't attribute that protection to ourselves. فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Allah is the protector. So once we have our beliefs straight, then the next thing that we have to look out for are sins. Because sins are first of all of many, many types. There are sins that are committed by the body, and there are sins that are committed by the heart. And sometimes the sins committed by the heart are more severe than those committed by the body. Famous hadith of Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that a person who has even a speck of faith in this world and leaves this world with that speck of faith, one day he will enter into Jannah. So Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu said, Ya Rasulullah, wa in zana wa in saraq. Even if he fornicated, even if he stole, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, wa in zana wa in saraq. Even if. One day he will enter Jannah. Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu asked him again, wa in zana wa in saraq? Really? Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, yes, really. The third time Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu asks him again, O Prophet of Allah, what? He commits these major sins even then? One day he's going to get to Jannah? He says, yes. عَلَى رَغْمِ أَنْفِ أَبِي ذَرٍ. Even if Abu Dharr doesn't want. These are physical sins related to temptations and greed. On the other side, the Prophet ﷺ makes a statement, a very powerful statement. لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من الكبر. Ya Allah. A person who has a speck of arrogance in his heart will never enter into Jannah. Sahaba radiallahu anhu were dumbfounded. When this used to happen, when these kinds of statements used to be made, right away they would reflect on themselves. How does this apply to me? They wouldn't say, oh, I'm immune. I'm okay. I have the kalima. Or by default, I'm free from this flaw. Which is what we tend to do sometimes. No, I don't have that. Sahaba radiallahu anhu on the other side would be alarmed. He said, O Prophet of Allah, إِنَّ أَحَدَنَا لَيُحِبُّ أَن يَكُونَ ثَوْبُهُ حَسَنًا وَنَعْلُهُ حَسَنًا. O Prophet of Allah, sometimes it comes in our heart that we dress well, we wear nice shoes. So they're thinking, this is what I have, is this also included in this warning? Because you want to look nice, sometimes you don't want to just look nice, you want to look nicer. I'd say more, but we have so many sisters here. So, is this also pride and arrogance? That arrogance that will deprive us from Jannah? The Prophet says, no. Inna Allah jameenun yuhibbul jamal. That's beauty. Allah is beautiful and Allah likes beauty. And he explains what is that kibr, what is that arrogance that will deprive someone of entry. Al-kibru bataru al-haqqi wa ghamtu al-nas. Kibr is when the truth is presented to you, but just because you have a different viewpoint, you don't acknowledge it, you don't accept it. It's the truth, but it differs with something that you hold to be true, and you say, well, no, it's wrong, I don't take it. What is that? That's arrogance. And the second thing is when you think of others as less than yourself. On any grounds, perhaps because of their financial status. They may be weaker than us financially, so we say, oh, what's he? He's nothing. They may be from a less prominent family or lineage, so we say, oh, what's he? He's nobody. They may be from another nation or ethnicity. We say, oh, those people. And it may be for any reason. But this was, after all, the slogan of Iblis, Ana khayrun min. I'm better than him. Which God he removed and kicked out of Jannah forever and ever and ever. So when we talk about sins, many different kinds of sins. Abdullah ibn Mubarak, rahimahullah, says, رَأَيْتُ الذُّنُوبَ تُمِيتُ الْقُلُوبَ وَقَدْ يُورِثُ الذُّلَّ إِدْمَانُهَا وَتَرْكُ الذُّنُوبِ حَيَاةُ الْقُلُوبِ وَخَيْرٌ لِنَفْسِكَ عِصْيَانُهَا. He says, I see that sins give death, they bring death to the heart. Slowly, slowly kill the heart. When we say kill the heart, what does it mean? It means a couple of things. One hadith illustrates this, the hadith of Muslim that I recited in the beginning. The Prophet ﷺ says, تُعْرَضُ الْفِتَنُ عَلَى الْقُلُوبِ كَالْحَصِيرِ عُودًا عُودًا. Sins, and this word fitna is used, fitan, it refers to sins and temptations. These are presented to the heart one at a time. Just like a straw mat is woven one straw at a time. So those places where, they make these straw mats, and they weave them. So you take one straw, you sew it on, add the next one, sew it on, add the next one, sew it on. It's just like that. Just like a mat is woven, sins are presented one by one. Now the heart has one of two options. It may, once the temptation comes, the inclination to do something wrong comes, the heart will either accept it or reject it. فَأَيُّ قَلْبٍ أُشْرِبَهَا. Once the temptation comes from shaitan, the heart that accepts it says, okay, bring it on. For example, it comes in the heart to look at something wrong, like our brother was talking about. So he goes ahead and raises his eyes. He has accepted the tendency. He's acknowledged that temptation. Or to say something wrong, displeasing to Allah. He accepts it and goes ahead and says it. Once he goes ahead and accepts it, نُكِتَتْ فِيهِ نُكْتَةٌ سَوْدَاء, the heart becomes tainted with a black spot. Now this is not something that's going to show up on your angiogram, that black spot, or on your ultrasound. That black spot is the diminishing of the light of the heart. When I say light of the heart, I'm not talking about some mystical concept. I'm talking about something very, very practical. There's light in this hall. Therefore, you and I can see. Let's take out one of those bulbs, one of those lights or chandeliers. There is still light, but it's less. That's what that black dot is. One of those bulbs was turned up. So if slowly we turn off all the lights, and then we're left with the lights at the back, and then someone switched those off, then there's some light coming in from the doors, and we shut the doors. Now there's no windows here. So we are going to be thrown in complete darkness. It's going to be pitch black in here. So I'm going to stumble over this podium, you're going to be stumbling over the chairs, people are going to be banging heads against each other, and it's going to be chaos. Because you don't know, you cannot navigate when it's pitch black. It doesn't matter if you're wearing glasses, if you have 20/20 vision, it makes no difference. The point is, there is no source of light. You don't know who your friend is, who your enemy is, who your relatives are, who your mahram is, who non-mahram is. You have no idea. It's just a mass of people walking around, bumping into each other, smashing into the walls, knocking things over. The exact same thing happens when light is diminished from the heart. Our judgment, as the light diminishes, our judgment gets poorer and poorer and poorer. Until there comes a time when we're just stumbling around, making one error after the next error after the next error. That is what that black dot represents. The nur of the heart, the light of the heart, which enables you to make the right decisions and navigate, is diminishing. And if this person ignores this tendency to do something wrong, and every one of us has the power to do that, tendency to say, to hear, to look at, actually physically do, the tendency comes, we put it aside, we restrain ourselves, fight it. It's like someone came and added another light fixture in this room. It's going to get brighter. And brighter, and brighter, and brighter. The more you do that, the brighter the heart is going to be. In other words, your decisions and your acts, your perception are going to get better and better and better and better until the time will come when you will be able to see things exactly how they are. With their haqa'iq, with their realities. Not in the way they're being presented to you. Just like you see someone's face in the dark, you have a general idea of who it is. Add light, you can see their face clearly. Add more light, you see the features. And then, when an extreme amount of light is applied to that person's face, you can see every small blemish in their face, which you wouldn't normally be able to do. So, you can't be deceived as to what that person's features actually are. Similarly, the world and its things that present themselves to us in so many shapes, in so many beautiful forms, in so many attractive ways, when that light in the heart is strong enough, we will not be deceived by the sugar coating, by the attractive appearance. We will look right through those things and be able to see them for what they are. And we cannot be fooled. And this process continues until a person will have one of two kinds of hearts. One is إِلَىٰ أَبْيَضَ مِثْلَ الصَّفَا. Person's heart becomes white, and it becomes like a bright, shining, white, slippery stone. A slippery stone, meaning that something that no matter what you pour over it, it's not going to sit on, it's just going to slide off. So no matter what temptations come, this heart has become so refined and so strong, and it has this resistant coating. And now shaitan is going to have a lot of trouble penetrating. That stone does not absorb. It does not absorb anything. The other side, every time, this is the heart that is used to taking those temptations and just doing it. It's the weak heart. So what happens? Aswada mirbadan. It's going to become black, and it's going to become dirty and dusty. Kalkuzi mujakhiyan. Like an overturned bowl. So you're looking at a dark, black, dirty, overturned bowl. So what does it mean, an overturned bowl? Well, you take a bowl, flip it over, and you can pour water on it till the cows come home. It's not going to fill up. Why? Because it is in such a position that it cannot accept the water. It's upside down. And it's dirty. Even if some water managed to get into it, that water is going to get dirty. This is what happens to the heart that just follows its desires. No matter if they're acceptable to Allah, unacceptable to Allah, if there are good things or bad things, it comes in my heart. I feel like doing it, I gotta do it. So that heart is rendered, yes, basically useless. Allah says, ثُمَّ قَسَتْ قُلُوبُكُم مِّن بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ. And then comes a stage where the heart becomes hard like a rock. فَهِيَ كَالْحِجَارَةِ أَوْ أَشَدُّ قَسْوَةً. It becomes even harder and more resistant to change than even rocks and boulders. So how can we mitigate the damage to the heart? And how can we start walking on that path? The first thing is that there are some channels. There are some channels that will either bring good into the heart or they will bring bad into the heart. We need to protect those channels. You can think of it like a fortress with 4 watchtowers, 4 guard towers, one in each direction. And if the guards that are in those towers do their job, the enemy cannot get into the fort. And if any of those guards are sleeping on the job, or they're not diligent enough, then you're going to have attacks on the fort, and you're going to suffer big losses. Another example, another way you can look at it, is like you have a reservoir, or you have a pond, or a lake, and this lake is being fed water by 4 streams. So if all 4 streams are bringing in clean and pure water, then the water that's accumulating in that reservoir or that pond or lake is going to be pure and clean. But if just one of those streams gets contaminated, okay, it brings in E. coli or something, all of the water in that reservoir is now contaminated, it's rendered useless. The 4 channels that bring good or evil to the heart are first the gaze, the eyes. What we look at, it leaves an imprint on our hearts immediately, either a good and positive one or a negative one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we cannot outsmart Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot outsmart the Quran. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, look, قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ. Tell the believers, and this will only be able to be achieved by believers, tell them to lower their gaze. He didn't say tell them to change their intention. He said, my intention is good, brother, what are you talking about? I don't have anything wrong in my heart. Allah didn't say change your intention. He said change the direction of your vision. That's what He wants from us. Because Allah knows what happens when someone begins something with a good intention, how that can evolve very, very quickly to something else. And He said the same thing to the believing women. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ. Tell them to lower their gaze. It's not about your intention. So when we look, we use our eyes properly, our iman is increasing. We have a chance to look at something haram. The Prophet ﷺ tells us a person who has a chance to look at mahasin al-mar'a, the beautiful features or the attractive features of a woman that he is not supposed to look at, and he lowers his gaze, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to produce a sweetness of iman that he will feel right away in his heart. Today we talk about praying salat, like this yesterday. Somebody was telling me that, oh, I've been praying for years, I don't feel anything. I feel like just getting it over with. And even now I'm at the point where it's even hard to sustain it as a formality, as a habit, because I don't see any benefit. Try guarding your gaze. I tell this to youngsters especially, because it's hardest for youngsters. Try guarding your gaze for 1 week. Make a commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you will not look at anything haram. And watch how your salat changes over that week. There will be huge improvements. That same salat that today you're having trouble just praying, that same salat is going to bring you so much enjoyment and pleasure and contentment, you will not feel like leaving it. You feel like praying all day. It will give you such a joy that does not exist in the pleasures of this world. Try it. Put your faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Put your faith in His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and try it. The second channel is the ears. What we listen to has a direct bearing on our hearts. Either these ears are bringing in
good and positive information and vibes and energy into our heart, or it's contaminating our heart. So what am I listening to most of the day? What do I listen to? Think about it. The third channel is our tongues. What we say has a direct impact on our hearts. Easy example, you get into a fight with someone, you exchange harsh words. How do you feel after that? You feel bad, don't you? Sometimes you feel bad for the rest of the day because you got into this spat with someone. They said something, you said two somethings, and then you're upset. What you say affects your heart. If our talks are on the right lines, if our tongue is engaged in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are saying good things, say those words that are the best, beautifying our speech, even amongst ourselves. Our iman is going to get stronger and stronger. Why? Because we're bringing in good into this heart. And the fourth channel is our minds. What do you and I contemplate about? What do we think about day and night? If from the time I wake up till the time I go to sleep, my thoughts are on dunya and the things of dunya, then I should take it for granted that my heart is filled with dunya. It's a fact. Like I said, we cannot deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot outsmart Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is my train of thinking from morning till evening? Whatever it is, that's what I have inside my heart. This is where the focus has to be. And this is where shaitan attacks. And everyone has a different composition. Some people are very good with protecting their gaze, but shaitan manages to introduce things through their ears. They manage to lend an ear to things that they should not be listening to. Some people are able to do all of that, but their mind is constantly going towards wrong thoughts. If we're thinking about sinning, we're thinking thoughts, we're planning it, or we're constantly pondering and contemplating over it, we are contaminating our hearts. Some people get it all, but then their tongues get the better of them. وَهَلْ تُلْقِي النَّاسَ عَلَى مَنَاخِرِهِمْ فِي النَّارِ إِلَّا حَصَائِدُ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. What else is going to throw people into Jahannam? But the crops that they have harvested with their tongues, those, every time the hadith is giving us a strange example. حَصَائِدُ الْأَلْسِنَةِ, it's ajib, it's from the balagha of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's from the Jawami al-Kalim. It's like every time you say something, you're planting a seed. And that seed is going to grow something. It's either going to be a beautiful fruit that's going to help us, or it's going to be some nasty weed that's going to destroy us. And on the Day of Judgment, one of the most common means of the destruction of an individual is those bad seeds that they planted. On the day of, today we don't see it, but on the Day of Judgment, the crops and the harvest of those tongues will be shown to us. And this is the result of what we used to say. So we all have a lot of work. If we engage in this, just protecting, this is a full-time job. This is a full-time job. You have these 4 channels that you have to look out for, and you have to protect at any cost. If we make this commitment to ourselves and to Allah, why? Why? Because إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. We have to take a preserved heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a heart that has been preserved through the course of our life from all of these wrong things. That's what we have to take back to Him. So how salim is my heart? What am I bringing in there? So this is a mission that Allah has given to every single one of us. We have to go back to Him with this pure, protected, clean, refined, solid heart. But if we continue to contaminate it, we're not going to be able to present that to Him on the Day of Judgment. So we take this as a personal mission, and we commit to ourselves that from today, we will not breach the limits of Allah regarding these 4 things. We will not break the limits of Allah. We will use these 4 valuable assets and ni'mas only in the manner Allah has prescribed. And we will see the condition of our heart will change. Remembering Allah will become our second nature. Abstaining from sins become our second nature. Doing good deeds will become our second nature. So this is something that's going to require, first of all, a commitment, and secondly, perseverance, and thirdly, an environment. We have to facilitate this amongst our families, create an environment of doing this. I'm going to say one last thing, and I'm going to finish my talk. There's one chef, a friend of mine, a colleague. He used to do different projects with the youth. One of those projects was that let's see how many youth we can get to come for Salat al-Fajr. So it took some time, took some encouragement, and I'll take you out for coffee afterwards, this and that, whatever. I think you guys have Tim Hortons here now, right? The disease is spreading. So I'll do this with you after Fajr, we'll do this, we'll go play, So a bunch of youngsters started coming regularly for Salat al-Fajr in the masjid. Now, these boys, coming for Salat al-Fajr is a big thing. So when they started coming for Salat al-Fajr, they obviously started doing a lot of other good things as well, because now they're praying the rest of their salawat. Now these kids started doing a lot of other good things. So when he saw that they're being consistent in their prayers, and they're good kids, not into anything wrong, he said, I want to give you a challenge. He said, I want you to try for today, I want you to make an effort that you do not look at any non-mahram today. I said, Sheikh, what are you saying? How is that possible? He said, I'll just try it. And you would give them targheeb and give them fadail and say, just try it. Okay, fine, we'll try it for all it's worth. So they spent that day. The next morning he asked me, he says, well, how did you guys do? I'm like, oh, not us. We didn't do too well. Like, it's okay. Let's try it again. The next day he gets them. They said, well, we had some better. It was a little bit, it was difficult. We made some mistakes, but it was better than yesterday. So okay, try it again. Again, pumping them out, telling them the fadail, the importance of it. Allahu Akbar. He said after doing this with them for a week, 10 days, a few of them were able to spend the whole day like that. This is taqwa. What are we doing by these exercises? We're instilling taqwa in the people around us. We're creating an environment for it. Urwa ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhu said, when his foot was cut off, he had his foot amputated because he had a gangrene. He had the foot brought to him. And he said to this foot, he said, أَمَا وَالَّذِي أَمْشَانِي عَلَيْكِ فِي عَتَمَاتِ اللَّيْلِ إِلَى الْمَسَاجِدِ إِنَّهُ لَيَعْلَمُ أَنِّي مَا مَشَيْتُ بِكِ إِلَى حَرَامٍ قَطٍ. I swear by that Allah who took me on you, who walked me on top of you in the darkness of the night to the masjid, I've never taken one step towards haram with this foot. And then he said, لَعَمْرُكَ مَا أَهْوَيْتُ كَفِّي لِرِيبَةٍ وَلَا حَمَلَتْنِي نَحْوَ فَاحِشَةٍ رِجْلِي وَلَا قَادَنِي سَمْعِي وَلَا بَصَرِي لَهَا وَلَا دَلَّنِي رَأْيِي عَلَيْهِ وَلَا عَقْلِي وَأَعْلَمُ أَنِّي لَمْ تُصِبْنِي مُصِيبَةٌ مِنَ الدَّهْرِ إِلَّا قَدْ أَصَابَتْ فَتًى قَبْلِي. He says, I swear I have never stepped towards haram, looked towards haram, listened to haram, thought about doing haram. Who can make such a statement? These are the kinds of citizens we are trying to create today. This is a collective project. While we are planning many other things, this is taqwa. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَّقِينَ. We develop taqwa, we will become the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We must learn. We must learn to swim against the tide of society. And stop being dazzled and amazed by what's being projected on these screens day and night, what's being thrown at us through the internet, the messages we are receiving out there. We are people who know how to swim against the tide. Why? Because our dealing is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not with all of this. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the strength, the courage, tawfiq and understanding to start walking along this path of taqwa, and building our nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that the day that we die, the day that we leave this world, is the day that we are the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from all the days of our lives. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه.